All right, folks. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. So this week we're looking at argument with purpose as the topic of the lecture, okay? So we're going to go through these lecture slides real quick, take 5 minutes for questions and answers on them, and then we're going to go over some last-minute stuff in regards to the anti-bibliography based on some of the questions I've been receiving in my emails. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this. So, argument with purpose. Basically, looking at arguments that are intended for a non-academic purpose. All right, argument essays thus far have been primarily arguments that exist for the reason of intellectual exercise. As it's a classical argument, rhetoric has its roots in the earliest forms of rhetoric pioneered by philosophers. This is your ancient Greek rhetoric. Evaluations have a very focused and limited purpose that's only intended to express an opinion rather than urge action. Now, proposal essay, on the other hand, is going to have a twofold purpose in that you're using it to create a solution to a pressing problem and to convince the audience that it's correct, okay? So not only are you creating the solution, you also have to convince us that, hey, this is the right solution. All right, typically, both sides of an argument have a vested shared interest in the subject of the argument and the outcome of the dispute. So the people involved with the proposal are going to have skin in the game. They're going to have some kind of stake involved with, hey, this has got to pass because otherwise life's going to be harder for me, okay? The arguments on both sides in this case are intended to present competing solutions for resolving the dispute, solving the problem in their own ways. Okay? For instance, the persuasive element becomes convincing the audience affected by a dispute of which side has the best solution. And the best solution, though, does not always equate to the right solution. Okay? Maybe it's just a stopgap measure until you can get the conditions for the right solution. All right? But it is something that can be done within the parameters of the problem itself. Winning the argument does not always equate with action. Sometimes the successful arguments are the ones where people are arguing for inaction, where people are arguing that it has to stay the way it is for certain reasons. Okay. However, both sides are trying to prevail. Both sides are trying to present a solution, and it has to be enacted. Okay, or not enacted in the case of those arguing for inaction. Right? So the most commonplace occasion for creating and putting forth an argument is arguing to solve a problem. Yagelski gives 3 concrete examples of topics which lead to arguments being presented as problems requiring a solution. The basis of a proposal essay. So members of a student organization decide whether to spend surplus funds on new equipment. Okay, they may be deciding we have the extra money, let's buy something nice for ourselves that we've been looking at for a long time and have been putting off because it doesn't seem like a vital expense. Okay, community residents debating whether to increase property taxes to build a new school building. In the lecture, I gave you an extensive example of this, talking about millages in Michigan, where you're voting, where you have the community voting on whether to add to their property taxes in order to help fund schools because of shortcomings of public funding. Okay, or in most cases, a millage is going to be building new infrastructure. That is, say, maybe you're building new buildings, maybe you need funds to repair or revitalize your bus fleet or whatever. Okay. Parents and school officials debate the best measures for increasing safety at their elementary school. So in this case, they're debating what can we do to make the students more secure. And people are coming up with their own ideas. In these cases, both sides of each of these arguments have a vested interest in its outcome because they're directly affected by the outcomes. Therefore, each side argues what they feel is the best possible solution. Okay, so they're actually offering solutions here. The other one here is arguing to prevail, which is the most concrete possible purpose for an argument. There are consequences from the argument, outcome of the argument, so one side or the other must win. It is not about debating the philosophical rightness or wrongness of both sides. In this case, one side has to prevail. An argument to prevail is an argument that must take precedence and rise above any opposing arguments to win. Commonly, these types of arguments are involved with high-stakes disputes where inaction is not an option, and actions one way or another will greatly negatively affect whichever group comes up short. So a lot of time, when you're arguing to prevail, you're basically really you're going to screw over one side or the other depending on who wins. Okay, just a matter of trying to figure out which side is the right side to win. Okay, and you need to be able to argue effectively that your side is the one that deserves to win in this case. Okay. Arguments to prevail are usually involved in important and controversial subjects, such as three situations that Yelsky presents. For starters, students making a strong case against allowing a controversial anti-immigrant organization to demonstrate on campus. Okay, this has been in the news a lot, where you have a lot of groups that are anti-immigrant or, let's be honest, white supremacist, demanding that they get equal time, demanding that they get equal consideration for their demonstrations and things like that. Okay. Members of a law enforcement organization argue against the state's adoption of stand your ground self-defense laws, which they believe lead to more gun violence. Okay, we talked over the problems with this in the video lecture. I don't think I need to rehash those any further. A resident strenuously opposes a town bill restricting gas drilling on the grounds that it will deprive residents of much-needed income. Okay, seems kind of backward because you'd think you wouldn't want the drilling near your home, but in this case, this person is more interested in the money that they'll make off of the mineral rights. Okay. These situations are arguments where the arguer not only opposes a position, but must convince others to oppose it as well so that it does not get enacted. These arguments come from extremely strong convictions. Okay. So this is stuff that's being presented before governing boards, school boards, city councils, okay, things like that. One thing to make sure of, though, is to not let your passion blind you to facts. If the facts are not on your side, you may need to reconsider. Okay? Don't just keep going at it and try to manufacture your own facts. You just need to acknowledge that the facts don't follow your side. Strong ethical practices need to be in place when writing an argument to prevail. You need to believe in what it is you are arguing rather than simply argue for the purpose of winning. So basically what it comes down to is you need to be willing to put yourself out there. Put yourself out there intellectually, okay? Believe in what you're arguing about. Believe in it. Put all of your being into it. Keep the ethics of your argument in mind as you craft your argument, okay? Is it going to be something that is morally right to do? Or is it something that's going to be blatantly harmful to one person or another or one group or another, okay? So all these things to keep in mind as you are continuing your argument. Who's going to benefit? Who's going to come up short? All these things to consider. Okay. All right. So it was a short slideshow this week, so we're going to take about 5 minutes here. If you have any questions on these issues, please, I would ask that you hold any questions about the antibibliography until later, because we're going to go over what you need to know for turning that in. Okay? So any questions about the slides? I'll give you about 5 minutes here to bring them up. Raise your hand. Let me know you're there, and I'll try to answer best I can. All right, folks, so we're going to go ahead and talk over the antibibliography and what you need to know for that, since it is due this week, okay? So first off, again, it is due on Friday. You will need to turn it in on Friday. The link will open up on Thursday. What you need to turn in, this is what is required of this assignment, okay? You need to turn in an antibibliography which includes a research question that you are working with. This is the research question that each individual team member came up with themselves based on the overarching topic that the team was using for finding sources, okay? You need to have your own research question. Following that, you need to have the bibliography itself, which will include the works cited listing for each source in proper MLA format. That means alphabetical order, proper spacing, proper information presented, okay? After each listing, you should have the annotation for that listing, which will be a brief summary and an evaluation of whether that source is usable for the purposes of your essay, of your own essay, okay? One thing to keep in mind is that the anti-bibliography is going to serve as your works cited for the proposal essay, okay? So you need to have the MLA listing, summary, and evaluation for each source. That's not just the ones that you supply. You need to do them for all of the sources that your team provides, based in context with your own research question, okay? So I'm going to show you the sample if you have not seen it yet. There is a sample. There is a sample of an anti-bibliography on eCampus. It is in the week that we introduced the anti-bibliography on the PowerPoints and lecture videos tab. You click on that, and it will download this document. Okay. So this is the sample anti-bibliography we have. It's actually adapted from one that I had to write for a class. I had to write this for a 20th century British literature class. Okay. So the general topic of this is the novel The Buddha of Suburbia by Hanif Qureshi. Okay. And I had to come up with a research question, and I had to have annotations for each of my sources. So, research question for this particular anti-bib. How does Hanif Qureshi employ multiple definitions of otherness in the novel The Buddha of Suburbia, and are any means of othering more significant in the context of the narrative? Okay. So if you look at what I have here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sources. Okay. So just looking at each individual one, each one has a paragraph after it that is the annotations, okay? So just as a sample one, we'll look at the second one here from, his name is Waddick Doyle, is the author. The article is titled The Space Between Identity and Otherness in Hanif Qureshi's The Buddha of Suburbia. It's from a journal called Commonwealth Essays and Studies, okay? So here is the annotation. Doyle argues that the characters of the novel challenge their identities threefold, through description, narrative, and deconstruction. In the case of Kareem, his issues in the theater world dealing with his ethnicity and how he is seen by his directors, Shadwell and Pike, act as this threefold challenge to how Kareem sees himself, forcing him into an identity he is uncomfortable with. This offers a primary definition of otherness for the work. Okay? So that shows not only the summary of the work, but also how it's going to be used in my context, okay? How I'm going to use that for my own purposes, okay? Go further down. Let's go to one of the probably harder ones to justify. Let's go to Wendy Webster's article here, Chapter 6, Immigration and Racism, from a book titled The Companion to Contemporary Britain, 1939 to 2000, okay? Here is the annotation. Webster recounts British attitudes and policy regarding immigration and race in the 20th century, particularly after the breakup of the empire. Of particular note is complementary legislative acts passed by Parliament, which imposed racial tolerance at the same time that they limited Asian immigration. As Karim and his family are South Asian, Indian, Pakistani, this offers historical context to the persistent racism faced by Karim both in his everyday living and in his experience in the theater. Okay, so again, we have a brief summary of what the article is talking about and then how it's useful for the purposes of the essay. Okay, that is what I want for this anti-bibliography. All right, so you're going to want to turn that in as you would a standard essay. So it's going to be double spaced. Okay, 11 to 12 point font is what I want of the acceptable font faces. Your works cited has to be in proper MLA format. Okay, we went over MLA format extensively in the lectures, so you need to find those. If you're unsure, go back to Purdue OWL and check what they say is the proper format for whatever type of source you are trying to cite. Okay. One big thing I need you to do is when you get the sources from your teammates, you should be actually reading them yourself. You actually need to double check the MLA listing that they've given you for that particular source. Okay, I had a problem last semester with the entire team who did the anti-bibliography. Every single one of them had the same MLA listings, the same MLA works cited for the sources. Problem was that half of them were incorrectly done. Okay, and in fact, 2 of them misidentified or forgot to identify authors. One of them, in fact, replaced the author's name with a numerical designation for the article, which they found somewhere, and I have no idea how they found it. Okay, but when I checked those particular sources, there were author names. Okay, and I noted it when I graded. This is the author's name. It should be here. There were also a number of people who did it in the order that they got them from their group, which meant that they did not put the listings in alphabetical order. Okay. One thing to remember is that MLA requires these listings to be in alphabetical order. All right, so make sure that you are doing that. Okay. With every single one of these listings, make sure that they're in the proper format, make sure they have the correct information, and make sure that your listings are in alphabetical order. Okay. Once again, to reiterate, you do need to do annotations on all of them based on your own research question. Your annotation should be a paragraph that follows the listing that it's annotating. Okay. I also had a problem with a couple people who decided to write their annotations as a 2-page essay preceding the annotated bibliography and then didn't bother to put the annotations in the bibliography. Okay. We don't want that either. Annotations have to go in with the works cited listings. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and open this up. If anybody has any questions about this assignment, it seems like there's a lot of people who are getting confused about this, even though I've tried to explain it as clearly as I can. Okay. So if you have any questions that you need answered, go ahead and bring them up right now. This is probably your last chance to do so, or one of your last chances to do so before this is due. Okay, here's the thing. All right, you're going to use the same sources, but you should not have the exact same work cited. Okay, you're going to use the same sources. Your annotations are going to be different. Your individual research questions are going to be different. Okay, you guys are working with the same general topic and the same list of sources, but your annotations and your evaluations of those sources, whether they're going to be useful or not, are going to be different. Yes, I would actually encourage that. Okay, if you, if your teammates are providing you with sources that you can't use for the proposal, yes, you can find some more ones that will work. Okay. Uh, I would say though, just for the purpose of the anti-bibliography, you still need to use those sources that they provided you. Just note in your annotations that they will not be of use to you. All right then. So I'm going to assume that nobody else has any questions about this. All right. So let me just go over real quick what we're going to be doing for the final 2 weeks of the class as far as lectures go and as far as these sessions go. Okay. So next week's lecture is a basically housekeeping, uh, making sure that you guys are aware of what's coming up due, uh, making sure everybody is on the same page with the schedule. Next week's collaborate session, part of it is going to be going over that lecture, okay, reiterating all that stuff. Part of it is going to be going through the discussion board because next week is going to be the last topic posted. Uh, and we're going to go over all 14 topics just to make sure that everybody knows what's expected of them and what they're supposed to be answering, okay? Uh, then the week after that is the last class week of the semester. Lecture for that week is going to be a final exam overview. It's going to be doing some more stuff with both the packet contents and the ways to handle answering the questions. There's going to be some different content from what's come before in the other lectures, so make sure you're watching that. And then the collaborate session for that week is strictly going to be a question and answer session for anybody who has remaining questions about what's going on in the course. Okay. The week after that is finals week. So everybody should have their exam proctors already selected. You should have them ready to go. If you have not done so already, you should download and print the exam proctor information sheets that are now available under the final exam tab so that they know what they're going to be doing while you're taking the exam. Okay? Now, one more round of questions here, and then I will cut you guys loose. So any questions about anything we've discussed today? Proctors are going to be watching you do the exam, making sure that you do not cheat. Okay? In addition to that, they're going to be putting their name at the bottom of your response so that I know that you had a proctor. The packet, you need to have the packet with you when you take the exam. Test is going to be online, but you need to have that packet so that you can refer back to it. Okay. Uh, as I mentioned before, this exam is not about how well you can memorize the stuff in that packet because there's too much in there to memorize. The exam is going to be how well you can articulate a response to the questions that I give you. You don't need to write a preface. The only thing I would really need as a preface to the anti-bibliography would be your research question. That's all I need. All right, folks. We'll go ahead and cut you guys loose here. Thanks for coming to this session. We will see you everybody next week, same time at this session. We'll go ahead and let you guys go now. I will have a new lecture coming up on Monday at the usual time. We will also have another one of these sessions next week, also at the usual time. I will see you guys there. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching.